All right, welcome back again. And before I continue to the session, I would love to bring back two more Hall of Fame stories to you and about the reality of life that gave us a little sneak peek in the past for what is the future now. Well, Dr. Radia Perlman, born in the year 1951, Radia studied at the M Institute of Technology where she earned her PhD in computer science. Well, in the 70s, Radia developed a child-friendly educational language called the Tortoise and later invented the spanning tree algorithm and protocol which changed the Ethernet from a single wire carrier sends multiple access, the CSMA, into a protocol that could handle large clouds. Radia is also known as the mother of the internet. That's right, mother of the internet, and for creating the fundamentals for the operation of network bridges. And we are so happy to be talking about her here because at FemTech, it's so much more to bring about and seek from what has happened in the past and which continues to bigger and better today. And all this was back in the past story. Because the next person in the Hall of Fame is Dr. Fifi Lee. Well, born in the year 1976, Dr. Lee is the co-director of Stanford Human-Centered AI Institute. Prior to this, she was vice president at Google, where she also served as a chief scientist of the AI or ML at a Google Cloud. She's the inventor of ImageNet, a database of 15 million images that has contributed to the latest developments in deep learning and AI since the database helped train the first computer to recognize and understand what's in a picture. Dr. Lee also co-founded the AI for All, a non-profit aimed at improvising and improving the diversity in the field of AI. And they're all part of our Hall of Fame, and it's so good to mention all of them here as part of the history that is back here with much better perception. All right, so let's get straight into what is next: women in tech, equality in a post-COVID era. And I want to quickly welcome Arundhati Bhattacharya, Chairperson and CEO, Salesforce India, in conversation with Sunanda Jayaseelan, Deputy News Editor at Times Network.
Thank you so much for speaking with us on this very exclusive conversation. Fascinating, ma'am. And every time we speak with you, and every time I've had the opportunity to speak with you, I always come away with a fresh perspective and a new perspective on things, particularly being a woman in the workplace. And just a couple of questions I have for you today, very quick questions. First and foremost, let's really talk about why there seems to be so much of a leakage when it comes to women who are entering STEM-related work roles. If you look at STEM graduates in India, female graduates with the highest anywhere in the world compared to even so-called developed markets like the US and Canada, at about 43 odd percent. But the number of women who then enter roles related to these educational, what they've studied is only at about 14 odd percent. Why is that gap happening according to you?
According to me, the gap is happening not only in STEM-related fields, it's happening across the board. Even say in the banks, for instance, we used to recruit about 33% of the women at the junior most level. When you go up to the senior management level, it would only trickle down to something like 4%. So we have a leaky pipeline all along. And the reason for that leakage are multifold. One, of course, the fact that, women are still considered primary caregivers in India. And therefore, there is a tendency to drop out whenever the women's role becomes more focused on the family. For instance, at times of childbirth and childbearing, or, specifically for India, the times when the children are preparing for all these competitive exams in order to get into the engineering and medical streams, where all middle-class Indians want to see their children become either engineers or scientists or doctors.
Yeah.
And the third time is a third period in the life of a woman would be when either the parents or their parents-in-law fall sick, because geriatric care is very difficult to get in India, the right kind of care. And women feel responsible for it. They want to give their best to their family members. And therefore, they choose to drop out. So what we need to do is to be able to support them during these periods, be able to give them the kind of leave that will enable them to go take care of their duties and return back to the workforce. But also, along with that, there are several other issues as well. One, of course, is the fact that, I do think that especially in the private sector, not in the public sector, because there the salaries are all the same across the board.
Yeah.
But in the private sector, there is definitely a gender pay gap. And people, especially women, are paid lower than what the same male counterpart is doing. That is something that needs action and very deliberate, focused action from the management side. Similarly, for instance, there is what I call an unconscious bias. Today, there is a lot of consciousness about promoting diversity, ensuring that women get an equal chance. But, you have to be very deliberate about it. In the sense, in our company, in Salesforce, for instance, after the merit increases have happened, we see what percentage of women based on the base of people who are eligible and what percentage of men have made it, and whether that is equivalent or not. If not, why not? Go a little deeper, dig a little deeper. Similarly, for the promotions, are we doing the right thing for the number of people that we have? Are we promoting in step, wherever both genders are concerned, whether we are having the same standards for both sides? I have known many cases, for instance, in the bank where the husband and wife have gone up together for an interview. And in 90% of the cases, the husband has made it, the wife hasn't. And in 90% of those cases, believe me, I believe that the wife was a better employee than the husband. But that's the way it is. That's the way unconscious bias works. And therefore, you have to be very deliberate about bringing these out and training people to avoid such biases. If you do that, then it does help. And the last but not least, I think, is policy itself. We have maternity leave. Why do we not have maternity leave? We should have that. The private sector, we already have it. Our company, for instance, provides paternity leave, but we should extend that to the public sector as well. Unless and until you make it clear that both partners are equally responsible, both in the home front as well as in the work front, it's going to be very difficult to stop this leakage.
Sure. Since you were talking about women in the workforce, World Bank has come out with its latest data as far as labor participation is concerned, and it seems fewer women are returning to the workforce post the pandemic. If it was already low, fewer coming back. But I just have one last question for you, because I do understand you're pressed for time, and that's something which is very crucial and of great importance to women in business, and especially women entrepreneurs. The amount of funding which is coming into women founded and women owned and run businesses is just a fraction of what's coming into the total ecosystem. My question to you really is a big picture question. What can be done to fix that? Could you perhaps have, women fronted VCs, Ps, or people like yourself, for instance, fronting banks, who would then maybe necessarily lend more to female entrepreneurs? Or is that sort of like a band-aid to what the real issue is?
No, it is not a band-aid. These are the places where I think that unconscious bias plays through far more clearly. Not only that, I would also say from the side of the women, women, at least in India, have traditionally been quite risk averse, because we were managing the home front rather than the work front. And in the home, you don't take risks because you risk the lives of your near and dear ones. So, over millennia, we have learned how to be a little more conservative, little more risk averse than probably men. For instance, if there is an opening available, and you will find if you put 10 people over there, 5 women and 5 men, and at the same level of, understanding of the new job, say they are 30% ready. Believe me, out of the 5 women, only 1 woman will put up her hand. All 5 men will put up their hands. Even though they are 30% ready, they're willing to take that risk, willing to step up, willing to take that, leap of faith across the chasm to see whether they can make it. For women, they consider the deliberate. And very often what plays on their mind is, this is a much tougher role. If I do this, will I be compromising my family as well? So, there are lots of things that go into this. It is not only one or the other thing. Having said that, let me also tell you that, when I was chairman especially, and, I used to visit Calcutta every once in a while. And I always bought my saris from Calcutta, because you have these thousands of little home boutiques, They do their work out of garages, they do their work out of their bedrooms or their dining rooms.
Sure.
But the fact of the matter is, you always got something that was special and something that was quite easily affordable, even though it was fantastic. But none of these women had the resources, the capital, to expand their business, to actually rent a shop. So we had actually created a card for such mini businesses, whereby, if you are eligible to have the card, then on the basis of that card, you can draw money and fund the business that you're having. But these were for smaller businesses. These were not in the range of, the larger startup economy that we see today. In the startup economy, I think it's also time for us ourselves to step up and be willing to take those risks, be willing to go in front of total strangers and convince them that your idea is a great idea and absolutely worth funding and that you can do it. Because that is what brings in the money. The money doesn't come for whatever ideas you have. The money comes after looking at the person and how committed is that person. What is the kind of fire in the belly they have, that they go the long distance. Because being an entrepreneur, believe me, it's a rule of nature. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. It just has to happen. So you have to be ready to face that and still just forge ahead. That's the only way to do it. And I don't think unless, sufficient number of women step up, it will happen. Today, we are having a number of, for instance, I do know of a PE fund that is led by a woman who only does women entrepreneurs. And we need role models like Falguni Nair and the others to showcase the fact that this is doable by a woman. More such models would absolutely help the country and help the youngsters to pick up that courage to go ahead and do this.
And more women leaders like you, of course, in the public space for others to look up to. Fascinating as always, ma'am, chatting with you. Thank you so much for speaking with us here.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Thank you so much.
Right to at the moment and right to what is post-COVID era. Well, thank you again to Arundhati Bhattacharya and of course Sunanda Jayaseelan for bringing us the best. Up next, we are moving towards the women leaders today, ensuring a tech-enabled sustainable tomorrow. That is up next for you.